She's an executive partner at IBM Consulting. In her role, she focuses on driving profitable business growth through serving clients on their transformation strategies, underpinned by delivery excellence and talent development. Welcome, ma'am, and thank you for taking us through today's session. We are also joined by Morleyan Jyotish and Sarada KV. Over to you, Simran, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody in India. I am going to actually first just share a screen, and then before we start the session, I think we'll just take a show of hands on the emotion of the day. Okay, somebody has disabled screen sharing. Hiro, can you fix it for me? Thank you. Yeah. So 1 second. All right, we're going to keep this screen. So, dear, bear with me, team. I have a new computer and that needs access to screen sharing on Zoom. We should have tested, but it's also demonstrating an important example that we don't need to worry about being perfect. Things happen. All right, I think I'm gonna have a bit of a challenge, Hiro, with sharing. I need to rejoin to give the access. Can I rejoin in just 5 seconds?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, is it working?
Yes, yes, it does.
I can rejoin. I tested the system if it was just lying that I have to rejoin, right? Sometimes we get these warnings and you say, okay, let me challenge the computer and see, retry the same thing. All right. That was a bit of a glitch. So good afternoon and good evening, all the ladies who are joining. I'm not going to keep a check on the count. My name is Simran, and as Hiro said, you know, I'm an executive partner at IBM Consulting. It basically means is our jobs is to bring business for the company, selling the work that we do at IBM Consulting for some of the biggest clients on the planet. But today's session, there's a bit of a story around today's session, and that is that it was not meant to happen. I was matched with a mentor talking about the confidence challenges that mentee wanted to have mentoring on. And I reached out to Ruchita saying, hey, this seems to be a common thread across a lot of people. You know, why don't we just do a bigger session? And I think we talked about this probably in May, June timeframe. And see, luck has it that I became part of the preparation for the job fair, and we're doing this session today. So just a very quick show of hands by some thumbs ups or, you know, messages in chat that Hiro can help me follow up is how many of you are already back to, you know, a job or a business where you are making money, and how many, let's take the first one. How many of you are in the workforce already? I can't see the chat. I have to figure out a way to see the chat here. Hiro, can you see the chat? Do we have a good number?
We have only Sarada and Morleyan who are back to the workforce.
All right. And then rest of you, of course, I'm sure you are working your way into to get into the workforce, right? Do we get some thumbs ups? Okay, there's a hand raised. You're welcome to unmute yourself and, oh, you're raising your hand saying yes, that we're trying to get back to workforce, right? Yeah? Okay, got it, understood. Great. So one of the things I also want to share that you must be wondering, why Simran? Why is she doing that session? I also have had some, you know, time off or break or unpaid break, whatever term we want to use it, but I've not had my entire career always working. I've had 2 children and I had taken 2 maternity leaves a year each. And at one point in time in my career, I took an intentional break because I thought I would want to study further, which became longer than I had planned for, but I did come back to workforce. And like many of you, and actually the stories of our 2 returnees that, you know, you had to move to other countries. I also had to move countries, one when I wanted to, and twice when it was about my husband's work. And many a times when you move countries, you have to restart because you don't have network. And since we are obviously the group here all based out of India, even when you move states or towns, sometimes that can be a challenge. So imagine moving countries for a lot of us where you don't have network, your education is from another country, there is no equivalent of education. You have to sort of you have to prove it that your education is as good as it or at par, of that country. So you're almost sort of restarting. So I've had a journey where at least my first 6 or 8 years of my career was multiple restarts, and not capitalizing on the previous years of work had I been in the same country. The beauty of it is that you can easily find jobs and get back in workforce. So that is the reason I think I have some things to share, as I've managed to have both upward mobility, have had children, have had a balance, and being in a leadership role, also now watching other people who are in the same situation in their life, both women and men, and how they navigate, and my own psychology when I was in the situation, how I navigated it versus how I would navigate. So I will so I'm just going to take like 10 minutes to share some of the things, the thoughts that we all have, and how it all summarizes into just 5-7 groups, and essentially how we should start training ourselves to think and talk when we are in front of our future employers, or even talking to headhunters, or coming to sessions at Aspire for how we should be starting to present ourselves, because half the battle is won when we have the narrative right. So going to the most important thing is our narrative. So if I move just to this slide, you can all read some of the things that are written, but essentially this is like the chitter chatter that goes in our brains. I'm behind, I'm out of touch, I regret my break, or I had to take the break, I don't have the same network anymore, how do I convince I'm capable, I think my skills are not relevant, etc., etc. I think the list is endless. I can't put it on one slide, so I picked the most common things that I thought even I'm guilty of thinking at a time when perhaps there was no need to do. Too long a gap, and gaps have different definitions. What will the world say? What are other people going to say? What's my husband going to say? What's my children going to say? Lots and lots of things that we think. And essentially, if I summarize, this is what we go through. We go through the fear of skills obsolescence. We go through the fear of ageism. Everybody's getting older. The day we are born, we're only getting older. There's nobody getting younger, but we still fear ageism, right? We're always looking at somebody younger feeling better than ourselves. It's imposter syndrome. Am I still good enough, right? And not that, was I good enough back then? Am I still good enough? Even after all the experience and maturity you may have gained after the time off that you've had from paid work. And also family and personal life, as I touched briefly, what would people around me say, right? Nostalgia versus reality. We're living in the past versus where we are today. The day that's gone, it's gone. It's a very hard learning, but actually there's nothing you can change about it. And we still live in nostalgia, and we assume everybody knows about it, about my life and my background. And then regret, and second guessing yourselves. You also are excited, but you also have a lot of fear. And lastly, you're worried about upward mobility. People are younger than me, or the people who are younger than me have gone ahead, and I'm still here. So there's a lot of I am, the narrative, we tell. So I'll take a pause and ask, again, people to unmute if you wish to, or share it in chat, or some thumbs up. Do you relate to that? Does this resonate? Yes, yes, yes. Do you still think about it? Even though you should not, but you do, right? So great. I mean, this is essentially, it is all about excitement and fear, all the groupings all the chitter chatter that goes in our brains is essentially in these groups. You can think about any thought in any language, in any way you want to describe it, it will fall into some group, some of the groupings here. So if I move forward, here's what I would like you to start thinking. But before I move forward, I would like to ask some people here, what is the definition for you for confidence? Please feel free. You can unmute yourselves and just share. Let's make it a conversation, not a monologue. So what is your definition of confidence?
Hi, ma'am, this is Sarada. For
Hi,
me,
Shana.
confidence is doing something without having the fear of being judged by someone.
By someone.
Yes, by
Okay,
anybody.
great. Park that thought. Because a lot of times we don't know who that someone is, but it's an imaginary someone. Great. Anybody else? So, a lady, something to think about. In a session where we're learning to be confident, I think we need to have some definition of ourselves, right? What do we think is confidence? But let me tell you what I have learned over time, through experience, through a lot of mentors, coaches, support, sponsors, family discussions, and of course, my own personal ambition to break free from everything. The definition of confidence is keeping the promises you make to yourself. If you do things repeatedly, everything that you say to yourself, like going to the gym, waking up early, eating at a certain time, taking care of yourself, or even doing something for somebody else, or for me doing this session today, is keeping your word. And if you keep it, the promise to yourself, and you do it repeatedly, you will build the confidence. Right? So that's someone that Sharda said, and I really applaud her for speaking up. That is the first step to building confidence, is to speak up. And that someone is essentially yourself. Nobody else. Right? Nobody else has the time to think about you. Everybody's busy dealing with their lives and their battles, and their priorities or change of priorities, and the million challenges everyone has to deal with. So essentially, that person that you have to be confident with is yourself, is in your own decision making, is in following through your decision or commitments or whatever word you had given that you're going to do. So what I would like to now take a couple of minutes and bring the focus on changing the narrative. Now, on the left is all the things that I know we all say to ourselves. I've said them many times. And on the right is I'd like to, bring your attention to start changing the vocabulary. Vocabulary has a huge impact on our psychology. And it's really important to use the right vocabulary. And nobody's born with that right vocabulary. We all learn through experience and, by learning and also reading how other people have done what they have done and how they change their vocabulary. So let's just take a couple of them here, right? The first is like, I'm in a race. How many of you feel like I'm in a race? I'm losing, I'm behind. I did that for quite some time in my life. You are on your own pace. It's not a race. It's not even your race. You are on your own pace. I'm doing things on my own pace. Stay at home. I'm just a stay-at-home person. I'm just a stay-at-home mom, right? You're managing home. Stay at home doesn't mean there's no work. It's not like you're just sitting and doing nothing. You're doing much more than you probably would be doing, in an office or in a sort of an employed scenario. You're managing your home. Return to work. You've never stopped working. You just didn't do paid work. It's a global research. It's a global discussion that when women are at home, how to ensure that they actually get paid for that service, because they are doing a service to their communities, their families, their children, indirectly supporting their partners. So you are never, never, never out of work. You're just not done paid work, and that's what you're moving towards. The next one, of course, is a gap years. We always say, I had so much gap year. It's a sabbatical, because you're not never learning anything. You're just learning different things. That may not be very interested for the employer, but that doesn't mean you're not learning anything. And that doesn't mean that you will stop learning in the future. So it's really, really important when you are going to be part of the job fair next week, or rather early September, and would be in front of the employers, try and change the vocabulary and talk like it was a choice, not something it was forced onto you. And in all sincerity, even if it was forced onto you, it is life. Life always comes in the way, and we all have to make choices. But the way you present that choice will sound like either a victim or somebody who has dealt with the life the way it came, make the best of it, and now things have changed and she's moving on, right? So impressions matter, perceptions are reality. So keep that in mind. My other favorite one is parenting. When I became a parent, I had this strong feeling that at some point in time, I will write a book about leadership and how parenting makes you a better leader. I've not done it, but I'm applying a lot of principles that I learned when my kids were younger, and how we had to juggle. And I live in a world where we don't have a lot of family support. We don't have family, so it was me and my husband sort of managing our life and also our young children. So parenting is actually coaching and team management. Dealing with your children is the hardest job. Convincing them is the hardest job. Learning to say no to your children is the hardest job. And those skills, you can really bring it to work. So use that I became a parent. And one of the most important skills that I've learned is team management, coaching, negotiation. You negotiate with your children, you can negotiate with a lot of people, right? And another thing is, oh, it's just the same level of job. No, it's a lateral move, and it's giving me exposure too. Many of you would probably come back to jobs that you didn't have the skills before. I don't know, from banking to technology, or from technology to startup advisory, or incubators. You didn't have those skills. You didn't learn them in university, and you didn't do those jobs before you decided to stop the paid work. So when you come back, there is no frame of comparison. There is no reference. So there's no need to make that comparison at all, especially for the ones who are making industry shift, type of job shift. You are basically making a lateral move. That's all. If you have to ever compare your level, I was senior manager 10 years ago, I'm coming back and I'm still a senior manager. You're making a lateral move in a different industry with a different skill set that you would learn. And it is the most important thing to do. Pretty much everybody has done some lateral moves in their careers, because then they learn multiple skills that will then take them to a leadership position. Yeah. The other one is, again, many introductions of return to work ladies, and also very few men, is I had to take the break too. And the most common answer is take care of my children, right? Let me say it in a different way. I decided to take a break to raise a family so I could give my 100% for the few years when they needed me the most. It's a huge difference. The second part is a choice. You're making a choice. The first way of saying it is like somebody had to really, really force you to do it. And that always gives the impression of that you're not in control of your life. You're not in control of your choices. And don't get me wrong. I mean, again, reality can be different. Everybody makes different choices. Even if life had to force you to do certain things, circumstances had to force you, it's your narrative. You can change it. That employer doesn't know what happened 10 years ago or 15 years ago. It's your story, how you tell them. So if you decide to say, I took the break, then you're speaking from a place of choice and authority versus from a place of, I didn't know, I had to, and, to take care because, we didn't have this and we didn't have that. Yeah. The other one is, I've heard that a lot of, and we'll talk about one of our, return to work panelists also, that when you try multiple things in life, you say, I tried multiple things and this didn't work and that didn't work. And it sounds like, oh my God, nothing worked. You can literally say, I did this and I gained that experience. I did this and I gained that experience. Many women start in, their own small businesses during the time of the break, or they go and do volunteer work. Just focus on what you did and what you learned. Not that I tried that and that didn't work and I tried that and that didn't work. Just imagine if you were working in the industry and you're changing jobs. You're not changing jobs always because it's not working. You change jobs because you want to do something else and you move to another job. But that doesn't mean that old job was bad or irrelevant. You learned something there. So when we are talking about our, if we had not taken a career break and we were continuously working for 20, 25, 30 years, and then for jobs, we talk about this is what I learned. But from our life experiences, we don't talk about what we learned from them. We undermine that, and we just literally say, oh, I tried this and I tried that and it didn't work. Take a pause, write down the things you tried, Think about why you tried them, and then what is the key thing you learned from that, and amplify that, because that's the skill you can use in your current job. Or how is it relevant? Because at the end of the day, it's all about the skill. It's all about the ability to do and execute. Yeah. I'm behind the latest. It's my favorite. Oh, I don't know everything. I'm so behind. I've not done this for many, many years. Just say the same thing by saying, I'm now prioritizing to stay up to date about whatever work you're doing, whichever skill that you're developing with, right? There's a lot of knowledge I had 15 years ago on certain areas that now it's not important for me. So I don't pay attention to that, but I pay attention to other things. And that's exactly what you would have done if you were in the workforce or outside of the workforce. Is every few years, the focus changes and you prioritize learning and paying attention to the latest in the space that is relevant for yourself. So it has no correlation to you being at home, not working, not being paid for the work you're doing, and going out and working today for a paid, employment. And again, the list can be long. I picked the ones that I thought were the most sort of resonatable. And the last one is also, I'm just volunteering. It's just part-time job. I'm easing my way back to paid work. It's not that easy if for 7 years, 10 years, 13, some of them 15, we have been doing things in a certain way, managing home, our time schedule was in a different way. Now, when we go back to paid workforce, our schedule will be different. So you have to ease your way out. You can't overnight start a job from 8 to 6 and just leave everything else that was something you were managing, you were running, you were leading. You need to ease out and make plans and see how you will adapt. So just by changing that vocabulary, you stop undermining. And I think I use the word undermining quite often, because if you undermine, people around you undermine. We always say to it, if you don't believe in yourself, and if you don't bet on yourself, you can't expect others to do that. So this is what I wanted to share about shifting mindsets. And we will take another short pause and see if there are any questions before I move to our two wonderful panelists today, who are our success stories from Aspire for Her to return to paid work. And they have some very unique stories, what they did. And I hope some of it resonates with them when we get into a little bit of a Q&A. But let's pause and see if there's anyone who has any questions at this stage.
Please unmute yourself if you have any questions.
I have a question for the audience. How much do you think is resonating?
100%.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. So if you were to ask a question, what would you ask? What would you add to this list? Let me make it easy. What do you think is missing on this list? Hundred percent. Thank you. Now I can see the chat. I just figured it out to see the chat. Inadequate practical knowledge. That's missing on the list. So Priyanka Sukhija, would you like to unmute and sort of elaborate a little bit what
Yes.
you mean by that?
So we, though we have theoretical knowledge and we have attended so many sessions which will tell us the theory part of it, where we lack is the actual practical application as compared to those who are actually working in the office. Because at the time we were working in office, that was when we were employed fully. That time we were definitely working on those projects, but now it seems that there is a long way to go and we have to upskill. So the theory is definitely there, but as far as the practical knowledge, we always think that, that's lacking.
So I'll share, it's a very fair point. And I think that is, again, a bit of tuning your, mindset on how to combat that chip on the shoulder or that fear or perhaps a very real concern, right? So what I did when I was on my maternity leave, the second time particularly, I just worked on a side project to develop something which was very relevant at the time in a technology that just was very new. So I could use that project. And fast forward today, 13 years, because my second child is now 13 years old, it's so much easier. So much technology is open source now and it's available. So my encouragement to you would be either yourself or find people online, or in this group, if you have made friends and who have similar skill set, get together, use the skills that you've learned and build something. Don't even worry that if you're building another Facebook, that doesn't matter. Then what matters is that you've applied a skill practically to build a project. And if you're going to do an interview and where you have a concern around not having a practical experience, you can be proactively highlighting that I did all these courses. And of course, it's really important to have practical experience, but it's also a catch-22 situation. You can't have a practical experience until you have a job. You can't have a job until you have a practical experience. So, right, what do? Well, then I took charge and I'm speaking on your behalf. I'm just checking your name, Sukita. Yeah. So I took charge and I thought, look, I can't solve this catch-22. What's in my control is build something. So either you build something on your own, or I took charge and I collaborated with 4 members from the community I was part of who was running this program of upskilling ourselves, and we built this. You see the skills that it shows? It shows you take charge. It shows you're proactive. You're not acting like problem, and you're focusing on solution. You can reach out to new people and collaborate and convince them to build that product or that whatever solution you want to build. You see, 5 skills are shown. So if I would be, or people like me sitting on the other side interviewing you, I will see that, not that you don't have the skill. I will see, what did she do? Because though this is a very important but a rare skill that every employer, every leader struggles with, to find people who can take charge and are proactive and can take initiative. If you take initiative in any organization on the planet you go, your leader will recognize you, because every leader needs people in their teams who can take initiative and get something off their plate, because careers are pyramids. The higher the people go, the more responsibility they have on their plate, and the more they need people under them who can take initiative and do things and support them. So every time you will have this situation, right? You don't have this, and you can't have this until you have that. You can't have that until you have this. How do you solve it? So this is what I did back in 2010.
Thank you. Very appropriate.
Sorry?
And that's very appropriate answer. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I hope you apply
It's
it.
lovely
It's not
to
an answer.
lovely to hear you.
Hey,
And
hey, Madhura.
hey, I was listening in very quietly, and I loved what Simran said last, so I thought I'll add something here. Hi everyone, and it's always a pleasure to be part of the sessions with our fantastic return to work community. And today we have Sarada and Morleyan who will have their stories. But to what she said, and it's so true for all of us also making a decision when we want to hire people that aspire for her. Is what has the person done during the break? And there are so many of you who actually come forward and said, hey, we want to volunteer. We want to facilitate sessions at the digital marathon. We want to do something to give back to the women in the community. And we love that so much. And not only Aspire for Her, I'm sure there are so many other communities and opportunities like this for you, which will give you that great, sort of a segue into showcasing your skills. And what Simran said, but I mean, I could not resonate with it more, because what she said is, when a leader is looking for somebody who takes initiative, somebody who is creative, somebody who's collaborative and can work in a team, these are all skills which we are desperately looking for in the industry. And by showcasing and doing work with, organizations, even like ours, it just it shows you in a completely different light, and it puts you in a different league altogether. So thank you, Simran, for bringing that up. And a lot of you already do that, but I thought I'll just, sort of also tell you that don't lose out on these opportunities, of just being part of something bigger and showcasing and building on your strengths. Thank you. Thank you so much, Simran. Sorry to have,
No problem. Thanks,
interrupted
Nadra.
the conversation.
No, absolutely right emphasis. So I know there are other questions around direction and lacking opportunities and not having relevant job experience. I think the relevant job experience part partially we've addressed, Rupa. It's Rupa Lahiri.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, partially we've addressed, right? Because today, there's so many opportunities, especially if you're doing this AWS cohort, Google cohort. So they're very tech related. So much is available online, and you can demonstrate your skills by building solutions, collaborating with others. And I think the tech community, and I'm in the tech sector, the tech community in my experience is one of the most open-minded, is the most safe one largely. When you reach out people online and you want to say, look, I want to do this, or I need some counsel or advice, do that. So I think you will create the opportunity automatically for yourself. We'll address the direction and I think the lacking opportunity. Again, yes and no. It all depends. It's very situational. While there are lots of opportunities and not enough takers, and I'm sure sometimes it feels like they're lacking opportunities, but that's what Aspire for Her is also trying to change, is bringing opportunities. But at the same time, we all have to do the work. The opportunity of Aspire for Her can bring the opportunity to you, but you have to then do the work of grabbing that and doing the work that needs to be done to grab the opportunity. So we'll keep taking the questions. I would like to move to our two wonderful panelists today who have amazing stories, but I'm going to give them a challenge. I have their story. I've read it multiple times, so I could ask them appropriate questions, but I'd like to challenge them to tell their story very briefly, but using the change of language that I have just described the first 15-20 minutes. Okay, so shall we start with you, Sarada?
Yes, ma'am. Fresh start?
Yes, please.
Yes, good evening, everyone, and thank you, Aspire for Her, for having me today to share my story here. So, you will not believe, ma'am, I had taken notes about what to talk during the program, and something, whatever you told actually resonated with me, and I have actually written the notes in the changed language, but I'll try my best to, speak in the same language that you have just advised. I right now reside in Mumbai and work as a program manager at Zone Startups India. It's the country's leading incubator and accelerator for startups, and we operate out of the Bombay Stock Exchange. So a few months before I joined the Bombay Stock Exchange, I was on the other side of the screen, returning to so many success stories and longing to be part of the paid workforce. But then somehow those things were never happening. Wherever I applied, I met with a dead end, not getting even an opportunity to interview or speak to someone in an organization who would actually hear me out and understand what skills I had, what skills I had acquired during my break. That's when Aspire for Her came into picture, and I saw this beautiful opportunity of getting Google certified under the Google Certificate Scholarship Program. So I right away applied for the program for project management because my master's was based on that. And I completed the certification, and then I thought maybe I should do another certification that would just add my skill set, and did it in data analytics. And I was also selected for the AWS cohort program to learn what cloud was. I had no idea what AWS was. I was just thinking it was another platform of Amazon where they were trying to sell something. So I just said, okay, I will see what that is. And I had this superb opportunity of learning cloud for a period of 12 weeks, again facilitated by Aspire for Her. And then I got an opportunity to volunteer. So that's that turning point. I was so low in confidence till then. I would never switch on my video in any of the meetings. I would never speak up. I would not even type in the chat. I was even lacking the skill of drafting a simple email to anybody. Imagine the kind of confidence I had before volunteering at Aspire for Her. So this was the Google Certificate Scholarship Program, for which we had to, facilitate the sessions for aspiring return to work women and students from various communities and colleges. taking up all the courses that Google was offering under the scholarship program with Aspire for Her. And that period of 8 months had a drastic change in me. I stopped judging myself. I stopped worrying about what other people would say. I stopped worrying about the break I had, the sabbatical I had taken because of my children and because of the frequent relocations we had within India and even outside India. So I slowly regained my confidence, and every other interview I attended was again ending up in something was going wrong in whatever I was doing. And then I got a call from someone at Aspire for Her saying that, see, there's an opportunity and we think your skills match here. And I asked about the company and they said, this is what we do. When I heard the word incubator, I thought it was an incubator for newborn babies. Imagine. So I did not know what that was. And I said, see, I don't know what incubator is or what you do at that company. The first question she asked was, are you ready to learn? Are you ready to do something new, something impactful that is going to change someone's life forever? Then that sentence actually resonated with me. I thought, why not? Why not I give a try? Why not I understand what was happening there? When they think that I have the skills that match their requirement, why am I not having that confidence to, go and see what that is? I went there. I did not have much hopes because I was totally lacking in what they were doing. I went there, spoke with them. It was a very casual interview. The MD there was so down to earth, asking me very basic questions about what I had studied, where I had studied, what did I do during my life in the US, what motivated me to do my master's after a complete relocation from one continent to another continent. It was a very friendly interview, and I did not hear from them for about a month. I thought, okay, this is also gone, and I have to keep searching for jobs again. And out of the blue, one day they called me and they said, have been selected for the program, for the job, and we need to come and join us in a week. And that was the best day in my life, the best phone call I have ever had in like 2-3 years. And I was not able to express how happy and excited I was. And now down the line, it's been like 6 months, and I'm very happy with whatever I'm doing, the kind of people I'm meeting, the kind of job I'm doing, meeting startup founders, hearing their struggle of how they brought up that startup to a market MVP stage or a growth stage, revenue stage. These are new words to me. Okay, all these terms when I learned them. I think all of us should have that urge to keep learning. The first break, actually, before taking the 7 years break, I had taken a break because I had to move from India to the US after getting married to my scientist husband. So I was like, what will I do? I'm on a dependent visa. What choices do I have? Most people around me were advising that you will not have anything much to do there apart from learning cooking. You have a baby, take care of the baby. Until you get a green card, there is nothing much you can do there. But then I had an idea. Why not study? What is it going to cost to learn? What is it going to cost a degree? Then my husband said, you can learn on a dependent visa. Start preparing for your GRE, start writing your TOEFL, start applying for the universities around the city, and you must get into something. That's the kind of encouragement that I got from him, and I started preparing it right away. And then I was selected for a master's program in technology project management, and it took a couple of years to complete because I had a baby also in between. It was tough juggling between work at the university and also my master's. And like you said, there was nobody in the US, a family member who could take care of your child. My husband and I would manage everything, his lab, my work, my home, my studies, my assignments, everything. So the shift of, coming from India and going to the US, there was a lot of mindset in myself. Actually, I stopped worrying about what people were thinking about me. There were all sorts of people talking about all sorts of things about me. I stopped thinking about all that. And
Well,
after
thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sarada.
Okay.
Sorry, I just need to be a bit mindful of the
I
time.
know, yes. Yeah.
But I think the key thread for me here is that I hope the audience can see the energy and enthusiasm in your voice. And I don't know if anybody feels the same, but I don't think she has not ever not worked a day in her life. She's always been working, right? It's how we define work. I mean, gainfully employment is not the only definition of work. So it's also, again, going back to how you present yourself, how you narrate your story, how you talk about your experiences, and how you not make it like I had to do it, and versus I did it, or it happened, I had to make a choice, and then that's how I pivoted or did different things to make sure that I still have the skills and the knowledge so I could come back to paid workforce. Fantastic. Let's move on to our, and we'll come to questions. I request, please, everybody, if you can put your questions in the chat, and I'll open it in a couple of minutes. But let's move on to Morleyan, our next returnee and panelist for the day. And she has another amazing story of, I think, a return of 13 years, and I will give her the same challenge to describe her story using the new vocabulary. And if I could show the stories that I had from them, the way they had originally written and the way now they're describing already, it's such a big shift in their story. But over to you, Morleyan.
Thank you, ma'am. I will try my best to use the new terms that you used. And they were like, when I was listening to you, it was, I could resonate 100% to whatever you were saying. So hi, everyone. So I returned to work as a product manager in Microsoft after a sabbatical of about 13 years from paid work. But it was, I wouldn't say it was a sabbatical from a paid work completely, because during the break, I was trying to run my own business, and I have gained a lot of things from that, like, you know, project management, even from taking care of my children, bringing them up. So whatever ma'am was telling, it was resonating a lot. So I started, so around 2019, I came to know about Aspire for Her. And when I joined here, I came across a woman returnee who had returned to work after a break of 7 years. And during that time, I had tried, and I was not getting any calls at all. So I had given up hope of returning back. I didn't know how I should put my, how I should showcase myself, what should, though I had run my own business, though I had gained, I had done the entire operations, the administration part. I have taken care of the IT part of the websites, all that. I didn't know how I should showcase myself. So when I got to know about this, I heard the story in the Aspire for Her community. I reached out to that person, and her story, it just inspired me to start trying. And I applied for the course, Cyber Shiksha course. I got selected for it, and the first thing that helped me was I set up a time frame, for me to complete that course, because I didn't know if I'm going to get in after that. So I started applying and started getting interview calls. But so I was getting interview calls, and I was very happy about it. But I was not able to clear the interviews. So so I reached out for mentorship as well, and started reaching out to people in LinkedIn, in the LinkedIn community. And after around applying for about 20 companies, I was able to clear the Microsoft Springboard internship. And after completing it, I got placed as a product manager in Azure. So the things that helped me in this journey was being resilient, not giving up, and being ready to get out of my comfort zone. So it was so getting out of the comfort zone and reaching out to people was very difficult for me. So that whenever I have done that, that is when something has happened. So that is what I would like to tell each one of you, to be resilient. If I can do it after 13 years, you can surely do it.
Thank you, Morleyan. Another, outstanding story. And just imagine also doing an internship in an organization and then getting employed within that organization. So I think one of the points I earlier made is that don't shy away from volunteering. There is so much need out there of talent, and volunteering can lead to continued employment. And if it's not one volunteering, go do another, go do third. I think Morleyan and both Morleyan and Sarada have a common thread about not giving up. One of my questions to them was that, did you ever think of giving up? I've just decided I'm not going to ask that question, because clearly these ladies never ever thought about giving up. It's a matter of making most. And life is like energy, and it changes all the time, so it never stays constant. So I, of course, have a couple of questions that I would like to pose to our wonderful panelists. But at the same time, I'm also happy to have, our audience joining. If they have any specific questions for Morleyan or Sarada, you can either put them in the chat, or please unmute yourselves and ask the question directly. Thank you, people. Thank you, Smith Anjali. Yes, very inspiring stories indeed. Is there anybody who has a question for them? Okay, I'll give you more time to think. I have one important question that I think is helpful for all of us, regardless of whichever phase of life we are in, is what did you do to ensure positive mindset and your own well-being, and not getting into a depressive state of mind, which impacts marriages, which impacts relationships with our family, our children, etc. Would you want to share some of your stories? And either one of you can go, whoever feels ready first.
Yeah, I can go. So, while I was applying for jobs, one of the main thing was like to set realistic expectations. Like so it's easier to say, difficult to do when you are trying and it's not happening. You put too much pressure on yourself. So that is one thing, like, you have to set, so I realized it slowly, like, so when I was applying for jobs and I was not getting through, I was feeling very low. But then when this, so usually the interviews are usually half an hour time slots, and I was not clearing it. So when I saw this Microsoft internship opportunity, it was they had mentioned it is going to be 5 1-hour interviews, and I just wanted to do it, just so that it just for a check, like it was just for a practice sort of thing. So I didn't go for the interview thinking that I'm going to get this job. I went to it thinking that I'm going to get better at attending interviews because of this. So that was the mindset with which I went. And another thing was, like, reaching out to, like, your family. They support you, but what you are going through as a returnee, it's easier to talk to somebody who has gone through it or who is going through it. So having a network, friends who are trying to do that was something that helped. And also, practicing, taking care of yourself, like, so that, these are the things that helped me.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing. Sarada,
Hi.
what did you?
Yes. So I was like having this same problem that Morleyan had said. And what I was thinking was, when the entire interview failure process was stressing me out, I thought I would make friends with stress and channelize that stress into a positive way that could help me move forward than falling backwards. So that was one important thing that kept me going. And another thing was reaching out to your close family members who completely have trust and belief in you. And you have any problem, you have any stress, any kind of negative thoughts that come to your mind about falling down, you hold their hands, talk to them, and always take inspiration from your life experiences. When you could do that, why can't this? You were a first time mom when you delivered your first child. Did you have any experience before that? You successfully did that. You have brought 2 children, you have brought wonderful beings into this world, and you are doing a wonderful mom as a mother. When you can do that, getting a job is nothing. So that kind of thoughts and talking to oneself, speaking to yourself was one important thing I used to keep doing to myself. I do it even today. Whenever I feel low at my job or whenever I feel low about myself, I keep talking to myself. That's one important thing that has kept me going all these years.
Exciting, because one of the things I practice is every time I hit a difficulty or a dead end or difficult moments, I now practice this conversation with myself. What is this trying to teach me? There's something I don't know it. That's why I'm finding it difficult. Otherwise, I would have been, acing it. And then you take a step back and you pause and you literally put it out in the divine and you start getting the answer. So that's what it's trying to teach you. Okay, now I can deal with it. So really good points around thinking it through. We've got some good questions here. So let's take some of from the chat here. So there's one from Pavani Chari. I'm happy to read it also, Pavani, and you're more than welcome to unmute yourselves. Is there a mind shift theory for family members as they are so comfortable, take things granted without getting into a negative side of it? I'll tell you my experience, and I'm sure our panelists also have their own experience. I think learning to create boundaries. One of the mistakes that we all make is that when we are, let's say, out of paid work, we also allow ourselves to be taken for granted and not have the discipline. If you just have to do simple things like in the morning, if you're dropping your kids to school and after that you need to, go have, let's say, do your exercise or do your yoga or meditation or whatever form of well-being you practice, or even just have breakfast and a cup of tea or a coffee in peace, we tend to not do it. We tend to use the time, let me just call somebody, let me just talk to this person. So you're also allowing access. So one of the things I have gotten better is with my boundaries. There are times I'm available and there are times I'm not. That includes everybody, including the closest of my family members. So it's also making sure that the communication is quite clear. I do understand it may not be very easy for everybody, but I think over time, slowly, people around you start understanding that. It's quite hard in the beginning, but when you stick to it and you keep it like that, I think people around you start understanding. And let's open, obviously, to Morleyan and Sarada. What's been your experience, how to deal with the family members situation, a very important one.
I'll go first, Morleyan.
Yeah, sure.
Like talking to them is very important. As you said, communication. I have my in-laws also living with me right now after we moved to India. So they are over 75, both of them. And my children are young. They're 5 and 11. So two different spectrums of life, all four of them. So we had to have that prep talk with my children, telling them that I would be away for so many hours a day, have to do all these things. And my in-laws were fortunately very understanding, and they have always wanted me to go back to the course. So they have been very understanding. So that shift in mindset is difficult, I understand, because they are so used to yourself being around them always, taking care of everything that the home needs. But, good communication and the right kind of talk to them and the slight mindset shift that you can help them in having will actually ease the process. And we had that difficulty, but when I was volunteering, I was going through the same thing. We were having meetings. I had to keep pushing my children away from the screen, telling them I'll be back in 5 minutes and all that. But that actually helped me practice for the much bigger things. So you have to take that small steps towards that, and ultimately things will fall in place.
Yeah, and I think also take the guilt out of it. Slowly start working towards taking the guilt out of it, that, oh, I'm doing this, but I should be doing something else. You can do everything, just not everything at the same time. Yeah. Morleyan, do you have some story around it about your family members?
Yeah. So I was also used to, doing things around them, like do whatever I want to do when I don't have to do something for them. But when I started upskilling myself this time around, so there was a set time, and that time I told I'm not going to do anything that time for you guys. After that, I will do it for you. But that time, so that helped me practice. Like the course was just 1 week, but that 1 week, that time I spent for myself, it made me happy. And their children, my children are 13 and 15. So they are big. So they were also fine with it. And slowly they got used to it. Like sometimes even now when I have calls at night, my younger one will say, Mama, just come lie down with me for some time. And also some days I arrange, have told that I will not be taking calls on these days, these days nights. So that way, so they will slowly get used to it. It will take time, but if you know what you want and you stick to it, slowly they will all get aligned.
Exactly. I think the world comes around, and you also make a very good point of setting boundaries, not just with home or family members, but also your work. Your colleagues need to also know when you're available, when you're not, because many a times the challenge is when we can't say no, it's because we are worried that they will think, or the people or the world around will think that, oh, you're not capable, you're not doing it. So there's an art to saying, no, I can't do it now, but I will do it then. So you're not saying you're not doing it, you're just saying, I cannot, or I'm not doing it now, or I cannot, prioritize it now. Great. So then, there's another question is around, I think it's Gitu Ashok. How can I effectively explain a career transition to a completely new field like AWS, especially after a break, and having pursued a master's degree and gained work experience in my previous field? I would encourage you, Gitu, to unmute yourself, come on camera, and also share what has been your previous field first.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are. Thank you.
Sorry, because of my connection, I am not able to start my video.
No problem.
Apologize for that. And I just want my previous experience is as a civil engineer, and I have done my master's in transportation engineering. And I have a career break of around 5 years after relocating to Malaysia with my husband. And now I'm trying to re-enter workforce, and I'm a restart cohort graduate. No, haven't graduated yet. I'm just in the process. So this is one of the main thing that I'm trying to get a guidance on, whether how can I positively convey this transition. Like mostly when they ask, they will be like asking whether how this, why you want to change now after you have had an experience and you have
you
pursued your-
have you been asked this question, Gitu, or
Yeah,
are you assuming?
yeah, I have been asked because right now I have applied for few jobs, and few of the interviews I've already given, and I was starting this journey for quite some time. Even though AWS is something new, I was doing Python, and then I tried for some jobs, and then I came to know about this cohort, and it sparked my interest, and it was a fantastic journey, and I'm really thankful that I joined. So this
If
is
you
one
ask,
thing.
so if you ask this question that, why are you moving to AWS coming from a civil engineering background, what is the answer you have given thus far?
Actually, after my graduation, BTech, so I was always interested in coding. So I initially I was also working in software for a few months, and later I had to change my career again that time. So it was always there in back of my mind that I like this, and some because of the health issues at that time I couldn't pursue it. So I had to change when I returned back. So that
So
is a thing.
let me try to give you an answer.
Okay.
This is how I would answer, and you can
Mm.
use it word by word.
Okay.
And firstly, I think your health challenges, unless it's really important for anybody to know about them, there is no need to discuss them, right?
Okay.
And if you don't have that health challenge anymore, it's your private matter. One of the mistakes I think we've all been guilty of making is that we think everybody needs to know everything about ourselves, right?
Mm.
Which is the fundamental definition of having clear boundaries. So if you're asked the question, why are you changing from civil engineering to technology? You have an amazing story already. The story is simple. I have always been interested in software and coding, and I did start in the software business, and I worked for 4 months, and then for XYZ reason, I needed to change. Then, of course, it was followed by a break in paid work. Now, when I'm working my way into re-entering the workforce, I have the opportunity again, and I'm picking the area where I'm truly passionate about. And the world has changed so much in the last 10 years of technology and coding. It's ever more exciting than it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago. It's a straightforward answer. It's balanced in my view. It's neutral enough, and it piques interest for the person to ask questions if they're interested.
Thank you. Thank you. It was
Nothing to do
highly
with your
insightful.
health.
No, everything's fine. Thank you.
Does that help?
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you so much.
No problem. Yeah, that's here. Okay, so if they're not, anybody else wants to unmute and ask their questions, and Hero, please keep us on time. I think we're already 2 minutes over time.
So I have one question.
Sure.
So, is it a good idea to, to when one offers to say, I'm willing to volunteer, or, you don't really have a salary amount in mind? Does that really sound very, somebody who's way too eager to work and probably not really appropriate, or is it okay? Because that's
Well,
something I've done very recently. So I
so
just, went up front and said, I'm willing to even volunteer. I'm willing to just work, just to get the experience. And then in the end, it didn't really work out. So now I'm wondering, was I sounding too desperate? Right.
it's hard to say if you were sounding desperate because we only know your side of the story, not the other person. So I will not judge it. But I think I would suggest that when you say that you would like to volunteer, I think perhaps combine that why would you like to volunteer, right? Then it makes it very, very clear. And it's not about salary, because I think if you want to volunteer and you don't have a salary in mind, those are two contradictory emotions. But volunteer means you're going to do pro bono work, right? So if
True.
it's a new area you're entering, and you want to, gain experience, you can just literally say, I'm willing to volunteer or do pro bono work as I am entering in this space.
Right.
And this is the education I have acquired, and I would like to work practically. And honestly, if it doesn't work out with some organizations, it's very human, naturally human, and also the way our brain wiring is that we tend to think, oh, there must be something wrong in me. What about they were
Right.
not serious about taking volunteers at all? What about they are
True.
not ready at all, right? Now, mostly it's not about you. It's about the person who is first coming and looking for people, and then something changes in the business and they decide not to do anything about it. And majority of the world out there is not really good with communicating. It's a challenge. It's probably one of my pet peeves as well, that no is also a good answer if you clearly state it to the person, thank you for volunteering, or thank you for offering, and expressing interest in volunteering with our organization. Unfortunately, this has changed and therefore we need to wait. But I will definitely keep you in mind when next time the opportunity arrives. So when you don't get a response, we always feel it's something I've done wrong.
Right.
I have gotten beyond feeling that, but it's been a journey. It's an intentional practice you have to make. It's not me, right? So it's not you. Try next time. Try it another place if you still feel like volunteering. I don't think asking for volunteering is desperate. I think asking for volunteering shows a lot of courage, that it's an area you want to enter and you're willing to volunteer as well.
Right. Right. That helps a lot.
Build
Thank you
from
so
it.
much.
So
Sure.
don't put yourself as that there's something probably wrong with me. And go back to that positive mindset of their priorities may have changed. I'll go try somewhere else, or drop a note and say,
Correct.
I haven't heard back from you. I'm making an assumption here that maybe some priorities have changed. Please keep me in mind that next time if you're looking for someone like me and would still be open for a volunteering opportunity, send a note. And then you've sort of closed the loop properly and not left it hanging. Yeah.
Correct. Correct. Sure. Thank you so much.
No problems. Okay, I think Hiral, we are out of time.
Yes, ma'am.
So, we'll try to close very, very quickly. I will ask one last question to our panelists. It is, are you both glad to be work and you're okay that great, we are back in the workforce, or are you really, really excited and hopeful for an amazing career ahead? You're still young. Either one of you can go, and give your answer, honest answer. Things change all the time, but whatever you feel today.
I am glad to be back in the paid work, and I'm excited because I feel more confident. There is limitless possibilities. Like going through this journey of trying and reaching here, it makes me feel happy. Like more than anything else, I feel happy, and that shows like in everything, like in how you are with your family, with everything. So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to what comes next. So yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you. Sarada?
Yeah, I'm glad as well that I have started after so long. But then this also motivates me to aim for the stars. So I would take this as a challenge to go beyond this and have a successful career ahead.
Fantastic. I'm so excited to hear these positive stories, and you're back. You may go back on another path, you may come back and things will happen. And life and careers are not straight lines, they're squiggly. There's a wonderful book called The Squiggly Career that I encourage this community to read. And I hope you will also find some hope in there and some great tips and tricks. It's been a while since I've read it. But I think now we would close the session, and I'm super grateful I got to do this. I got to relive some of my, life and careers history, and some great questions, and wish you all the best. Each one of you, all the best on finding your new assignments, jobs, paid works, and whatever you're doing. Have all success ahead. Over to you, Hero.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Simran ma'am. Thank you, Morleyan, Sarada. And thanks to all of you for asking such amazing questions. I'm sure everyone is going back with absolute confidence to answer all your interview questions. And also, you will look back on this session and look back on what the stories that you were saying previously and what you will be going back to now. So, thank you very much. And hope to see you all in the job fair.
Fantastic.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Have a good night.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.